A very good evening to all of you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to yet another virtual learning session in our 2024 Econ-Hub theory virtual classes. So we are at the very end of Unit 1, as you guys know. We have completed most parts of economic systems, and today we will touch on a very small area towards the end of our economic system discussion, right? And then we will move on to how the main economic systems, that is a market economic system, then a command economic system, and a mixed economic system, solve basic economic problems, the basic economic problems of what to produce, how to produce, and whom to produce. So we will first cover that small part that we need to do in terms of economic systems, and then go into the basic areas and understand first what are the three basic economic problems. And once we get a really good understanding of what are these three basic economic problems, we will go and talk about how the economic systems solve these problems. Right. So we might not be able to get through all three of the economic systems and how they solve their basic economic problems in this session. So anyway, Pata, now the plan is we have 2 more sessions this month that we will allocate for the complete comprehensive coverage of Unit 1. And what I have planned is, I will talk about this a bit later into the session also. From February onwards, from the beginning of February, we will be starting the all-important, let me repeat, the all-important second unit of your syllabus. Why it is important, why are we giving so much of a, why are we making such a big deal about Unit 2, one might think, isn't it just another unit of the syllabus? So why is it so special? I'll explain to you why it's special and why we need to really get into the subject and start Unit 2. Not that Unit 1 is not important, but right, there is a special significance, special importance in your syllabus that we give to the second unit of the syllabus. So let's talk about it a bit after we start the session and go into detail. That and a few more things I need to mention, right? Update you guys on. So let's start off. I think a few students have joined in. I think everyone is in the, anyone who is participating for the live session is here. And I have scheduled the class at 4 from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. but unavoidably I had to start at 4:15. Right? You guys know why that is. Right? We are still going through the power cut phase of the Sri Lankan lively average day. Right? So let's not talk about it, no point. But we are adjusting around it and trying to do the classes. I was very happy to know that today, based on the power cut schedule, I was able to do the class at the scheduled time. That is 4 to 6 is the scheduled time for our class. I think after a few weeks, we are able to do it from 4 to 6. But unfortunately, today also, I was not able to start exactly at 4. Even though I was very enthusiastic and eager to start at 4, but it is what it is. So yeah, so let's start the session, talk a bit about the special mixed economic system that we spoke towards the end of last session, that is social market economy. Then how is it different from socialist market economy? I want to touch on that a bit more, because it is something more, very important for your exam, your professors, plus as a country, Sri Lanka is talking about becoming or transforming ourselves into a social market economy. So, Pata, we need to have a really good understanding of what a social market economy is. You guys have a basic idea now. Last week I explained a bit, last session. So today I want to go into that a bit more detail, compare social market economy one more time with a liberal market economy and a socialist market economy. Use some illustrations with you guys. And then a special area I want to do today is make sure you guys are clear on what is the role, what is the job that the government needs to do. Now, if Sri Lanka is to become a social market economy, there's a certain role or a job the government of Sri Lanka has to perform within a social market economy. So we need to be aware of that. Your professor has talked about that in detail. So let's do that part also. And then we will go into basic economic problems with a quick recap of some of the very basic things we need to know about economic systems. And then we go into basic economic problems. Right. I think all of you are clear on the agenda for the day, the plan for the day. And I'm very confident that, yes, with your utmost focus and cooperation, we can have a very productive, as always, a very productive virtual learning session. So with that ambition, right, in this full academic year of learning, let's make sure every session is a productive learning session. So with that, Pata, let me go into the slides and let's start learning. In terms of the study materials, I think you guys are clear where we are, right? Okay, I'm sure all of you guys can see the study material on the screen by now. Yes, can I get a quick, everything is okay? Yes, right.
Yes, sir.
Excellent, there we go. Okay, then, right, thank you. So this is the main area we want to look at today. But before that, we have a few finishing touches left to be done in economic systems, right? So last week, we talked about a social market economic system. I've underlined the word social because we should be very clear that a social market economic system and a socialist market economic system are two very different economic systems. We'll talk about the difference very clearly today as well. And I have put the recap label. You can see the red color recap label I have put because end of the day, right? I'm talking about this end of the day. We did talk about this last week. Okay, right. In terms of the study material, you guys are in page number 50. You guys are in page number 50. Right. Now, one thing we have to be very clear in the very beginning is a social market economic system and a socialist market economic system. Both of these are two types of what economic systems? Mixed economic systems. Two forms of mixed economic systems, right? In this discussion today, I will also use another slide and help you understand in the mixed system, where do they fall in? Where is a social market economy? Where is a socialist market economy in that scale when we look at a mixed economy, right? Right. Then we know, right, there are, I would say, four very important things, right? Because we are preparing short notes, we are using, we are going through a certain memory program, we are using scientific study techniques, right, to remember what we learn. So as you prepare your short notes about a social market economy, I would say there are four very important things you guys have to be 100% clear on when it comes to a social market economic system. First, the very first point is with a social market economy. Okay, all of you guys are with me, right? A social market economy is first and foremost a market economic system. So this is a market economy. So countries that are social market economies, whether you ask Germany, whether you ask Denmark, whether you ask Norway, Switzerland, whether you ask New Zealand, any of these countries, they will say, we are a market economy. We are a market economy. We are a capitalist country. We are a capitalist country. We are a market economy. No doubts there. But while being a market economy, they give a high degree of importance, which is unusual for a market economy. So now when we say market economy, right, these are very basic things. Okay. Remember, I'm trying to explain to you the 4 key points you need to know about a social market economy, right? So the first one is a social market economy is a market economy. First thing, right? Before I go to the second point, I want to just make one thing clear. Now, if you take the market economy, right? If you take this part, right? If you take market economy, there are 2 kinds of market economies. One, we have, right? Or there are 2 main ways we can look at a market economy. Let's call it that. One is the right liberal, or we say free, liberal or free market economy. Okay. Then the first category is that liberal law, free market economy. Now, then we talk about what we are looking at now, social market economy. Now, we have to be very clear. If you take a liberal market economy, I'll just use another color here. If you take a liberal market economy, we think of maybe a country like USA, Canada. These are liberal market economies. Okay. Then we look at social market economies. I have given the examples below. We'll say we look at a country like Germany, right? We look at a country like Germany. Now, if you look at a country like USA and Germany, one of the main differences one of the similarities you will see is both are market economies. USA is a liberal market economy, whereas Germany is a social market economy, but both fall into the same broad family, market economy. Then what is the difference? The main difference is a liberal market economy, a free market economy, countries like USA, where the focus is very, very less on things like social equity and social well-being. In liberal market economies, there is the highest levels of private freedom. Private sector freedom is at the highest level. Because the private sector freedom is at a very high level and not controlled by the government almost at all, not at all controlled by the government, or there are very few controls, right? There are rules, regulations, all that is there in a liberal market economy also. But all those rules, regulations is to make sure that private freedom is ensured. It's not to control that private freedom. When you have an economic system or a society where there is very high levels of private freedom, private sector freedom, then that economy will purely or most of the time make all its decisions based on self-interest, profit maximization, or it will be mostly an economic system where people who are able to compete, people who are able to have some kind of a background with them, whether it's if they have got a good education, or whether they come from a affluent or a rich family, whether they have the right connections, whether they know the right people, or whether they are very smart and able to make decisions, very sharp decisions, right? So people who have a certain skill set, people who are very talented or come with a very good background in a liberal market economy, they have the freedom to earn endless wealth, right? And they really exploit the system well. On the other hand, in a liberal market economy, we talked about this a bit last session also. In a liberal market economy, you will find if you don't have certain family background, if you haven't got a certain level of education, if you don't have a certain set of skills, if you don't, for sometimes not a reason to do with you. Sometimes if you were simply unlucky, unfortunate, or don't have a lot of opportunities, you will have a very difficult time surviving, living in a liberal market economy, because that private freedom is not controlled by the government at all in a liberal market economy. So that uncontrolled, untamed, unchecked private sector freedom in a liberal market economy makes a liberal market economy, the society becomes very unfair, very unequal, and there's a lot of exploitation, there's a lot of inequality, right? Big gap between the rich and the poor in a liberal market economy. In a liberal market economy, free market economy, right? When you are, for some reason now, all of us, your parents will know this through life experience, right? All of us go through certain rough patches, difficult times in our life. Sometimes we lose our job all of a sudden, unexpectedly, right? And so we don't have an income after that for a certain period. These things happen. This is part of life, right? Or we have a health challenge, or we meet with some kind of an accident or an injury, or some family, emergency happens. These things are very common in human lives. So when something like this happens, if you're in a liberal market economy, as long as you can't work, as long as you're not productive, as long as you're not in the game, in a liberal market economy, that is, you're holding on to the economy this way, right? You're holding on with a job, with something you do, some activity, you somehow make a living, you earn an income. But when something unfortunate happens and you let go, right? You lose your job, or you lose your income, or you lose your business, or your business goes bankrupt, or something happens. When you let go in a liberal market economy, countries like USA, liberal market economy, you keep falling, and you fall until you hit the ground. You fall until you hit the ground. There is nothing to save you there. So your life completely breaks down and you become homeless. You don't get health facilities. You can't get education for your children. Get what I'm saying? You don't get the other basic facilities as a human being that you need. Your human rights are not being, fundamental rights are not there. Everything breaks down. That's the way. Eat or be eaten. Survival of the fittest. Eat or be eaten. Survival of the fittest. Kind of a system is what we call liberal market economy. Freedom is there. So people can do really well. But the moment you have some problem, you will fall and you will hit, you will break down. You will directly hit the ground. Got it? Ground meaning you will become poor and you will become homeless and everything will break down. That's a system. So seeing this problem, countries like Germany, Denmark, Norway, Switzerland, New Zealand, these countries saw that as a big issue. They said, yes, private freedom, we want to be market economies, right? We want to be capitalist countries. We want those values. We want our people to have freedom of choice, freedom of enterprise. Now, who is talking? Countries like Germany, Denmark, these countries, right? They're thinking now. We want freedom. We value freedom, but we value liberty. But when it's uncontrolled, unchecked, to some degree, if you don't control it, there are many, many citizens in our country, when they are unable to hold on to that system, when they have a problem and they let go, when they fall, they will have a major difficulty in their life. So they said, no, we want to be a market economy, but not that liberal market economy. We want to be a market economy that is giving a high level of emphasis or importance to things like social welfare, social well-being or welfare, and social equity, fairness. That's a big part of a liberal market economy. So our second main point out of the 4 points is, right, where I'm going to connect these two, social equity or fairness and social well-being, both together. That is the second point. right? It doesn't matter. I know you guys don't mind the color, but that is the second point. Social equity and social, sorry, social equity and social well-being, social welfare, right? Hopefully you guys are with me. Right, number 2. So first point is market economy. Social market economies are market economies. Second point is there is social equity and social well-being. Social equity and social well-being, right? Which is unusual for a market economy because they are social market economies. How do you achieve a fair society, a just society? How do you make sure people in your society get some level of social well-being or social welfare, even though you're a market economy? The way to do that is you need to make sure you control private freedom. Okay, you control what freedom? Private freedom, not 100%, but to some degree, you need to control private freedom. Are we clear? Right. So I'm not going to take that as a main point, but you need to understand when you ask yourself the question, how to focus on social welfare, social well-being, we have to control that private freedom. Okay. Then the fourth key point is in these social market economies, right? 5 types of human rights, basic human rights are protected. Basic human rights are protected. I'll give you the 5 types of basic human rights. Make a note in a bit, right? So number 3, basic human rights, the focus has to be on that. Basic human rights are protected and ensured for every citizen. Every citizen's basic human rights are protected and ensured. Number 3. Okay. And number 4, remember, when you're in a liberal market economy, you're holding on to the economic system, you're having a job, you're somehow surviving, but something happens and you let go of that, you let go of that, right? You let go of that, what will happen? You will fall to the ground itself, meaning you will collapse. Your life will break down. But in a liberal market, that is in a liberal market economy, but in a social market economy, government is there. They are always going to be there and they will protect you. When you fall, they will catch you and not allow you to fall to the ground. They will catch you and make sure. So when you fall out of the system, right? When you lose your job or something happens and you fall out of the system, right? You're not going to hit the ground. There is a net that captures you and you bounce on that net, settle a bit, and you can be on that net. Protection is there until you can stand on your own 2 feet and go into the system and climb the system again. Are we clear? Government will protect you. That's called a social safety network or a social safety or social protection net. Even in a liberal market economy, but even in countries like USA, there is, Medicare, Medicaid, and different things. Social system networks are there. Social protection systems are there in countries like USA also, in liberal market economies. But the problem is those nets have they're nets with big holes. So many people don't get to stay in the net. They fall through it. But in a you guys understand there's no actual net, right? The idea is that, but in a social market economy, this net is very, very fine, very, very nicely done, very comprehensive. They look at everything. If you don't have a job, until you find a job in these social market economies, government will pay you unemployment benefits. If you can't get education for your kids in private schools, government will have a system where they will give you education aid. They will have public schools and they will make sure that is there. If you can't get medicine from or healthcare from private sector, government will ensure there are free clinics and other facilities are created for people, right? If you, for example, if you are disabled, government will make sure that all the facilities are provided and disability benefits are paid for you, right? If you even if you are finding it difficult to travel and transportation issues, government will have a solution for that. So it's a very comprehensive network they have. So every citizen is protected. Their human rights are protected. Their basic needs are given because of this system. So our fourth and the final key point about a social market economy is this very comprehensive social protection or safety network. So when you think social market economy, what are the four things that come to mind? Number one, a social market, say this with me, right? Work on this with me. Number one, Kuta, social market economy. Number one, it's a market economy. Number two, in a social market economy, they will have a very high level of focus on two things. What are they? Social equity and social well-being. Number three, there will be the 5 basic human rights. Basic human rights will be protected and ensured. Every citizen's basic human rights are protected and ensured. Number 3. Number 4, there will be a very comprehensive, the main point is number 4, social safety net or network. Social protection network will be there. Welfare system will be there. Very strong welfare system will be there. 4 things about a social market economy. And that's how a social market economy is different from a liberal or free market economy. Okay, right. And the 5 human rights systems, shall we somewhere make a quick note with the in page 50 near this, this is in towards the bottom of the page, in page 50. So you guys can make a quick note if you don't mind. I'm going to give you the 5 human rights, 5 types of human rights, which is called the human rights system. Okay, right. Please write. We have civil. So the 5 types of human, I'll just write it here. We have civil rights, CIVIL, civil rights. Okay, comma. So you can number them also. It's always good to number as we realize. Number 1, civil. Okay, just give me a second. Right. Number 1, we have civil rights. Then, okay, right. Number 2, we have, we'll say, political rights. Political, basic human rights, right? 1, civil. 2, political. 3, we have economic is also human right. Economic. Number 4, we have social. And number 5, we talk about cultural. Right? Cultural. So civil, political, economic, social, cultural. These are the 5 basic human rights. 5 basic human rights. These 5 basic human rights are protected and ensured for every citizen in a social market economy. That is why countries like Germany, Denmark, Norway, Switzerland, New Zealand, these countries, the main examples we take are one of the best places in the world to live in, because every citizen is protected. Every citizen's human rights are protected. Everyone is protected by that social safety or protection network. Okay, right. Now we are 100% on what a social market economy is. Okay, and how it's different from a liberal free market economy, where there is absolute private sector freedom, whereas in a social market economy, that private freedom is controlled to some degree, and there will be a high degree of focus, high level of focus on social equity and social well-being. How do they do it? By protecting 5 human rights and making sure there is a comprehensive social safety network. Remember the countries that we have given as examples as well. Right, done. Then socialist Now, earlier we tried to compare liberal market economy and a social market economy. Now I am trying to tell you trying to explain the difference between a socialist market economy and a social market economy. We know a social market economy, the main difference is that a social market economy is a market economy. These are mainly capitalist countries, but they are focusing a bit on, the government is focusing on social equity, social well-being. That is a social market economy. So social market economies are market economies. But with a socialist market economy, these three letters make all the difference. Socialist market economies are mainly socialist countries. These are command economies. Socialist countries, command economies. So number one thing out of the four main points we said for a social market economy, the first thing we said is a market economy. No. Here, first and foremost, a socialist market economy is a socialist country. It's a command economy, but they are permitting a bit of what? Market forces, price mechanism. So price mechanism is given a bit of a opportunity, right? Mainly what do they use? For resource allocation purposes, resource allocation decisions are mainly based on the planning mechanism. They believe in the principles of these countries, which we call socialist market economies. They believe in the principles of socialism. But they are permitting, or they are allowing, not all their markets, but allowing in some of their markets what to function, market forces, meaning what mechanism? Price mechanism. What is the main mechanism of resource allocation in a socialist market economy? Answer this question quickly. What is the main mechanism of resource allocation in a socialist market economy? Socialist market economy, what is the main method of resource allocation? I want answers very quickly. Mainly, what do they use? Yes, I'm getting some answers. I need more answers. Very good. There we go. Right? Akila, Noha, Khadija, good. More answers. Unmute the microphone and say, Khadija, Putta, you have to think a bit there. In a socialist market economy, what is the main mechanism? What do they mainly use for resource allocation purposes? Yes. Putta, there is some issue with the audio. I can't hear what you're saying. Right? Aisha, correct. Amani, Shera, very good. Khadija now, very good. There we go. Yes. So most of you guys have picked this. So all of you have understood this, I believe. In a socialist market economy, right? Socialist with the three letters at the end. Socialist market economy. The main mechanism is the planning mechanism, but some of their markets will be permitted to use price mechanism. Price mechanism is the minority. Planning mechanism is the majority mechanism, right? Okay. Make resource allocation decisions. Some degree. Earlier, we said private freedom should be controlled to some degree. Here, private freedom will only be there to some degree. Get it? Private freedom in a socialist market economy is only there to some degree. Consumer or household choice is only there to some degree in a socialist market economy. In a social market economy, it is fully there. Government is trying to control it for some degree. Okay, those are the differences. We call it socialist market economy. So these are socialist countries, command economies that are permitting the price mechanism to some degree. Right. Examples are countries like China and Russia, where there are very powerful governments controlling the economy, very dominant government controlling the economy. Okay, in countries like USA, the government is very less in their economic influence or power. In countries like Germany, Denmark, Switzerland, those social market economies, government has a bit more control, bit more influence on the economy than liberal market economy. Where in what kind of economic systems does the government has a very high level of power, very high level of influence in command economies and socialist market economies. Get it? Right. So I think we are very clear on these kinds of differences between socialist and liberal, then between social and liberal market economy, then between social and socialist market economy. Finally, we'll finish this area, I mean the concept of this with this comparison, right? This is there, no need to draw or anything. You have this in your study material. Last session also I shared these slides with you. So when you look at your study material, you will see in page number 51 the different ways of creating mixed economic systems, different dimensions of the mixed economy, right? Mixed mechanism I have given. Now, for what we just discussed, this is the way to go. Based on resource allocation mechanism, we can create a mixed economic system. The theoretical mix is right in the middle, right? Theoretical mix is right in the middle here, right? Right in the middle, okay? Where you will have containing large market and non-market sector. Non-market sector meaning what, Buddha? Non-market sector meaning basically government. Non-market sector is the government. But practically you don't have any country as an example that is exactly in the middle. No. Then can you see where I have marked social market economy? Social market economy, can you see where it is marked? It's not in the middle and it's more on the what side? Market economy side. It's more on the market economy side. It's not exactly in the middle. Social market economies. You need to see that point. Then where do we have socialist market economy? Where I have said now this socialist market economy, this part is not there in your printed version of it. Maybe you can write it below that box in page 51. You can quickly make a note, socialist market economy. What does it say? Command economies. Command economies with some household choice. Some household choice meaning price mechanism is there, but not big in a big way, in a very small way. So we call it social market economy. Can you see where social market economy is? It's on the command economy side. It's on the socialist market economy is on the command economy side. Socialist market economy is on the command economy side. So you can see that social market economies are market economies, but not pure market economies, not 100% liberal market economies. There's some control of the government there. Socialist market economies are command economies, but not 100% of pure command economies. Also, there's a bit of a market sector there. Are we clear? Got it? Right. Any questions, please? We are okay? Right. Anything you want to clarify, you can ask. Now, very completely, we have discussed this area. Okay? Because it's important. Right. Next, Buddha, let's move on. And this is a special note I'm giving. You don't need to write it because I will share a special note PDF of these, all the slides that I'm using. A special note will be given to you guys as a downloadable material. Okay? Right. So no need to write, but just make sure you are focusing and learning these things. What is the job of the government in a social market economy? Your examiner has talked about this, so we should know. Right. What is the job of the government in a social market economy? I want you guys to take a few minutes, 2 minutes maximum, and just read these points. Then I'll quickly explain. That's enough. No need to write for that, right? It's not in your study material. It's not printed and given, but I am asking you not to write because I have given, or my technical coordinator will upload to the website a downloadable PDF with all this. Okay, so don't worry about that. For now, can you quickly read this, please? Right. Okay. Right. I'm sure you guys quickly went through the points. Most of the points I don't think are that difficult to understand. Remember, this is a social market economy, which means it's a market economy. Mostly there is private sector freedom. Government is trying to control that private sector freedom to some degree with a focus on two things. One, social equity and social well-being. Two things, right? And social equity is with every citizen in your country should be able to at least satisfy their basic human needs, and every citizen in your country's basic human rights should be protected. That's called social equity, a fair society, a just society, justice-based society, right? And social well-being comes under making sure that, as I said before, the basic needs, there's a social safety network, there's a protection every person receives when they are vulnerable, when they face difficulties in life, right? Government is having a system to protect them. That is social well-being. So that is the system we are talking about. Okay. So first and the most important job of the government in a social market economy is to make sure, in a social market economy is to make sure that they establish and sustain, meaning maintain, social justice, fairness, equity, protecting human rights. These are big things. Social justice. Every person's human rights should be protected, every citizen's. Then ensure full employment. Why? Because then everyone is given an opportunity to earn an income. Everyone is able to have a good livelihood, a living standard. So everyone should be able to find a job. So full employment is an important objective for the government in a social market economy. I'm sure you guys have heard of this saying, this proverb, Chinese proverb, right? Some people say it's Japanese also. Anyway, the proverb is, remember, I mean, right? You might have heard of this definitely, right? It's better to teach, or let's see, let me put it this way. You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man how to fish, you feed him for life. I'll repeat. You give a man a fish, you will feed him for one day. But if you teach the man how to fish, you will feed him for life. Have you heard of this proverb? It's said in different ways. Okay, I will use it in a few places now. And then when we talk about poverty in Unit 11, we'll talk about this. What is the moral of this proverb? What is the message of this proverb? See, but if you keep giving people welfare, you know, different benefits, unemployment benefits, low income benefits, and whatever it is, nutritional food and things like, you can keep giving benefits. In Sinhalese we say sahanadar. Yes, now we have in Sri Lanka, we have a Samurdhi program, that is our social safety network. So in the Samurdhi program, all Samurdhi beneficiary families, poor families in Sri Lanka, are given a monthly income supplementary payment. In some amount of money is given on a monthly basis. See, that is the fish. You can give a man a fish. You will feed that man, or by giving some of the benefits, you will feed that family and give them some kind of a hope and feed them for a month, for a day. But end of the day, you can't keep doing that. If in that case, every day you have to keep giving a man a fish. Get it? So what is the better thing? What is the more sustainable long-term solution? Is to help that person, give that person the capabilities, skills, knowledge, advice, and some seed money, that is to initial capital, and help that person start a livelihood, find that person a job, or make that person employed. Could be self-employed also. So employment is teaching a man how to fish. You permanently can take that person out of poverty and that family out of poverty. Did it make sense? No, nothing. So what is the best way to get people out of poverty and give people that basic living standard that everyone deserves? Make sure people are given a livelihood. Got it? Right. Remember the proverb, then it's easy to remember this further. Right. Then number 3, maintaining economic stability. Right. Now this is, we can see this very clearly playing out. We can see this happening in our country. Now Sri Lanka has a problem with macroeconomic stability. The biggest challenge we have at the moment is very high rates of inflation. And because of this inflation being at a higher level, we have to keep interest rates high. So our economy is not growing. Now that is the reason. Now we have low growth. That is also macroeconomic instability. Low economic growth is also macroeconomic instability. So we have a problem with high inflation, very high inflation. 4th, 5th, 6th highest in the world, food inflation and general inflation. Then we have a problem with low growth, that is also instability. We have a problem with our exchange rate depreciating sharply and, you know, not being very stable. That is also instability. So when we have macroeconomic instability, right, and when the market system fails that way, the low income earners, the fixed income earners become the most vulnerable. That means they get into trouble first and very quickly. If you're a fixed income earner, if you're a pensioner, if you're a government servant, your money income is the same, Puta, but your purchasing power keeps on reducing. Your real income reduces. That means, why is that? Because cost of living keeps increasing with inflation. So your parents realize with the same income they got last month, this month, how much goods and services they can buy, and the basic goods and services they need to buy, they're finding it difficult. It becomes a challenge. Get it? So basically, low fixed income earners, pensioners, salaried employees, then low income earners. Now, that's why in Sri Lanka we see, because we are unable to maintain macroeconomic stability, that is the job of the government. Macroeconomic stability, Superman has to do it, government, right? Because we can't do it, Puta, we see many families, children get into malnutrition. Nutritional problems now we have, right? And because they can't afford to buy some basic nutritional food because of inflation. So macroeconomic instability, inflation can create low economic growth, meaning less jobs are created. So unemployment is created. With all this, right, that fair society, social equity, social well-being is affected. So it is important to maintain economic stability. We, again, as I said in the beginning, this is being played out in Sri Lanka. We can see this. Okay, the poverty, high rates of poverty we have. 6 million Sri Lankans are facing poverty, are living below the poverty line, or not able to earn the minimum income that should be there for them to satisfy their basic human needs. 6 million. In 2019, that number was 3 million. Now it is estimated to be 6 million. The World Bank surveys tell us. Peradeniya University has done a survey, it tells us 6 million. That's with a doubling. Our poverty has doubled. Why? Because of macroeconomic instability. Got it? Right. So when you have very high poverty levels, you can't talk about human rights and social safety, no point. Right? Ensure labor rights. Remember? Labor rights, union rights, social partnerships, and co-determination. All these are broadly coming under the different types of human rights we talked about, the 5 types of human rights we talked about, the civil, political, economic, social, cultural, all that, right? Then market guidance. Market needs to be guidance. Who needs to give this market guidance? The guidance needs to be given by the, now we are talking about the government's role within a market economic system. So government should provide the guidance to the market. On what? It should make sure, deter, meaning discourage, right? Eliminate. If you are confused with the word, then write it, just use this word. Discourage monopolies. Monopolies are bad. Discourage monopolies. We want competition. Consumer rights and protection. Consumer rights should be protected. Yes. Consumer sovereignty. Remember, consumer should be protected. Environmental protection. Private sector will not protect the environment. Private sector will be greedy. They will cut down all the trees if possible, because it's about profit maximization. Government needs to guide the market and say, no, we need to have a sustainable environment. So protect the environment, provide that guidance. Then provision of public goods, markets don't do, government has to do. This is directly government has to, remember allocation function we talked about, government has to allocate resources and produce public goods. Street lighting, national defense, maintaining law and order, flood protection, all of that government has to provide public goods. And merit goods, right? Remember things like education, things like health care, government has to find a way to provide. Because private sector provides them, it is not enough. It is not enough. So government has to also provide these kinds of things. Are we clear? Right. Then, two more things. Then we are done with the government's role in a social market economy. Establishing and maintaining effective social. Come on, this is a main point. No, we talked about, isn't it? Social security, social safety networks, right? Compulsory insurance. That is a way to protect all your citizens. Health insurance, other kinds of insurance against disasters and things like that, right? Fire insurance and all that. Then income security. Income security is, right? Government needs to make sure that people are encouraged to have savings. Government needs to make sure that there is some kind of a welfare payment they do when people lose their jobs and things like that, right? Then building capabilities. Remember that is where I talked about the teaching a man how to fish part. Yes, skills development, giving people, making people tech savvy, technologically knowledgeable, tech savvy, making people financially savvy, economic savviness, that is economic knowledge, how to make decisions, how to manage your finances, how to use technology, e-commerce, things like that. All these are capabilities that you can build in people. And when you do that, you're giving them all the skills they need to really become very good at fishing. What is fishing? Earning an income, doing a job, having their own livelihood. Got it? I hope you guys are clear. Right. Then we need to define and protect, remember, 5 main dimensions of human rights systems: civil, political, economic, social, and cultural. 5 main human rights should be protected. That's big responsibility of the government in a social market economy. Okay, right. So when you get the downloadable PDF, please go through them again and have a basic understanding of what the government's job in a social market economy. Right. Now we are going into the last part, that is basic economic problems and how market economy, command economy, mixed economy solve these basic economic problems. So first, let me very quickly go back to the go back a bit to the beginning of the chapter, so that we are somewhat clear on what we have done, and it will help what we are about to do. Okay, right? Yes, question, Buddha? Right, there's a question, just ask, no issue at all. Right, you can unmute the microphone and ask Buddha. That's perfectly okay. If not, you can use the group chat. Maybe you responded when I said, is it clear? Right? Okay, good. Now, we learned that we can classify economic systems based on 5 main institutional features, right? Ownership of resources, mechanism of resource allocation, incentives, yes, then income redistribution and social safety networks, and number 5, politics and ideologies. Out of these 5 ways we can use to classify economic systems, 3 of them we need to be clear on in detail. What are the 3? Ownership of resources. How do we classify economic systems? What are the words we use? The words we use based on ownership of resources if we categorize economic systems. Based on resource allocation mechanism, the most important thing for us, because that is what we learn in detail. Based on resource allocation mechanism, how do we classify economic systems? What are the proper words to use, terms to use? Words or terms to use. Then incentive, based on the dominant incentive, out of material and coercive incentives. There's moral incentives also, but we don't classify based on moral, only material and coercive. Right. So that's what we have learned. And now I'm going to recap that quickly and then focus on the main method of classification. Then we are going to go and recap, the basic economic problems and go into it. Okay, right. Based on ownership of property resources, how do we classify? We ask the question, are property resources mainly owned and controlled by the private sector or the public sector? If they are owned and controlled by the public sector, what do we say? What is the economic system? What is the proper words to use? Can someone just unmute the microphone and tell me if ownership of resources is mainly with the public sector government, what is it? What is that economic system called? Okay, I'm getting an answer on the chat. Very good. You're very correct. Can anyone unmute the microphone and also give me the answer, please? It's okay, but don't worry. Just say what you think is the correct answer. Yes. Go ahead, Pata.
Socialist or communist economic system.
Very good. Right. Ayesha, is it? Right. Okay. Very good. Yes. Socialist or communist economic system. There we go. Right. That is, if the property resources are mainly owned and controlled by the government. If they are mainly owned and controlled by the private sector, then what do we say? If they are mainly owned and controlled by the private sector, we use the term capitalist or liberal. Are we okay? Capitalist or liberal. Right. So we are very good with this, right? Don't think I'm going through the same thing over and over again, because without this knowledge, Putta, somewhere you will get confused. So that's why I'm emphasizing on this again and again. So here, capitalist or liberal meaning private sector dominance is there. Socialist or, right, I'll say private sector here. Private sector. If it's socialist or what do we say? Communist economic system, then there is public sector dominance. Public sector dominance. Okay, they own and control resources. Mechanism of resource allocation. I'll give you the mechanism. You give me the proper term for the economic system. Ready? Right. You have the short notes. You guys have studied these things. You are using the study techniques. Now, active retrieval. Okay, but if you have the study material in front of you, close it for a bit and try to retrieve, try to recall. That's the best study technique research has proven to improve your memory, to keep things, remember things longer. Active retrieval. Put things into your head, prepare short notes, prepare summaries, put it into your head, but recall, retrieve, right, knowledge. Then the neural pathway gets very strong. Then you remember. Ready? Mechanism of resource allocation. That is the method of classification. I'm going to give you the mechanism. You give me the proper term. Shall we do that? Right. Okay. I want most of you to respond quickly. Ready? Right. If we solve basic economic problems based on how our ancestors or the generation before us has solved basic economic problems. If we have some kind of a cultural, some kind of customs, some kind of religious framework, and based on that, if we solve all our basic economic problems, what do we call that kind of an economic system? What is the term? What do we call that kind of economic system? Very good. Yes. Who was that? Amani, is it?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Very good. Yes. I want more of you guys to respond. Right? Just put your response quickly. Unmute, if not, chat option. Right? Very good. I can see most of you guys who have responded have done well. Aisha, Nuha, Shera, Nilasha. I hope I said your name properly, Buddha. Yes, Nilasha. Khadija. Yes, very good. I think all of you have responded. No, all of you haven't responded, but people who have responded have done well. I want more of you guys to respond. Yes, right, good. Yes, see, I knew you guys were intelligent. Traditional economic system. I can't bring it on, Putta, because the whole panel will come at once. Traditional, brilliant. What if, I'm just asking another additional question quickly. What if they use a cultural framework to make their decisions, but what if they are very open for new technology? What if they are very open to deal with other countries in the world and learn from other countries and become global citizens? Then what kind of a economic system is that? While they are very strong with their traditional framework, but they're open for the very good. Yes, there we go. See, we have learned these things properly. Very good. For the students who responded, and all of you guys, I'm sure, thought of this new traditional economic system. New traditional economic system. Right. Next. What if we have an economic system, but their mechanism of resource allocation is highly decentralized, where they get the information they need, the incentive they need, and they ration their producers the resources, consumers the purchasing power, based on something that is decided in factor markets, in product markets, based on demand and supply. If this is the way they solve what to produce, how to produce, whom to produce, in a decentralized manner, based on market forces, and getting information, incentive, and rationing based on those market determined outcomes. What kind of a system are we talking about? What kind of a system are we talking about? I am not asking for the mechanism, I'm asking for the system. Mechanism is what I'm describing. Without saying it, I'm describing it. Okay? Otherwise, where's the challenge, right? Where's the fun? Right. Very good. There we go. Yes. Again, I'm getting very good responses. I want more of you guys to join. Yes. Few more of you. What is the economic system called? If the mechanism is what I described. There we go. Yes. Very good. Few more. What is the economic system? The economic system is called, there we go. See, you guys need a bit of a push, no? Otherwise, I don't think you don't have the knowledge, not at all. You guys know what all of you have the answer with you. A bit lazy. Okay, right, good. Very good, Buddha. This is really good knowledge, right? And all of you, all the participants in the session now, I'm sure can think of this and are okay. Okay, right. If you're a bit confused with that, nothing to worry. It's not the end of the world. We do get confused sometimes. We do forget things sometimes. That's okay. Try to work on the short notes, right? And also go to the, not now, after the class, just go to the study material, have a look at it, that area. Then be okay with it. That's all, right? And Buddha, since you guys are virtual students, you have a tremendous advantage that the physical students don't have. What is this tremendous advantage you have? The physical students don't have. You get the recorded version is there. You can go to that particular recorded version, the video, and you don't have to listen to the entire thing, right? That area where I'm explaining what you are confused with, you can watch that part of the video. You can watch it 10 times if you want to. I know it's irritating to look at my face and listen to me say the same thing 10 times. but right, you can still do it. That option is there. So, but you guys really have all the tools you need to ensure your knowledge is perfect. Just that small effort you have to take. Okay, right. Very good. Yes, market economic system. What if there is a country, their mechanism of resource allocation is basically centralized, highly centralized. Only one party or one authority makes all the decisions. They conduct a comprehensive input-output analysis, gather all the information they need. Based on the outcome of that input-output analysis, they prepare a certain document that will look at 5 years or 10 years into the future, and they outline everything in that document. Using that document, that central document, they will solve the problems of what to produce, how to produce, and whom to produce. What is the economic system I'm talking about then? The mechanism is what I described. What is the system I'm talking about then? Yes, I'm looking at a very good central authority, centralized. So they make all the decisions. They don't allow anyone else to make the decisions, right? Then what is the system I'm looking at, or what is the economic system? Command economic system. Yes, Ayesha, you are clear, Puta, there. Central planning is what I described. Yes, I used that word very clearly in the beginning. Centralized. Indicative planning is type of a mixed economy where market and mixed economies, government gives some guidance, but the central planning mechanism is where the government makes all the decisions. Okay, right. So the economic systems are very clear. Traditional economic system, price mechanism based market economic system. So remember, the economic system is that, right? Price mechanism is only the mechanism. Get it? Price mechanism is only the mechanism. The other thing has also appeared. Yes, market economic system, command economic system, right? We can take indicative planning here, but you guys remember, I prefer to take indicative planning under mixed. Okay, that's better. Right, mixed, three things. We have talked about this a lot now. Socialist, social, and indicative planning. Indicative planning, right? Based on incentives, if material incentives are dominant, if it's self-interest based, profit maximization, things like that, then we say it's more of a market economy. If it's social equity, or sorry, social equity or common benefit, things like social welfare, these kinds of things are given more importance, or common benefit for everyone is given more importance, or if that is a more powerful incentive, then we say command economic system, coercive, material, and accordingly we categorize into market economy. Material incentive is dominant, coercive is dominant in a command economic system. You guys remember how we learned this? We are not saying, Puta, in a market economic system there are only material incentives. No, material incentives are more powerful in a market economy. There are coercive incentives. Even in a market economic system, there will be rules, regulations, taxes, and all these coercive incentives are there. Then in a command, more powerful is coercive. There can be material incentives. There will be material incentives. Okay. Based on moral, we don't do a classification. Right? Right. Nilasha, you have asked a question, Buddha. What is indicative planning system? Right. There is a note, right? I'll give you the page number, Buddha, right? Where I have explained the two ways in which how planning mechanism can be used. We use the planning mechanism in two main ways. One method in page 47, okay? 47 in the material. One method, right? One method in which we use the planning mechanism is centralized planning. That is a command economic method. Other is indicative planning. Indicative planning is if a country is a market economy, if a country is a mixed economy, what they can do is the government in that country, when they see that the market system is failing, when there is some problem with the market system, government can have a certain plan or policy and take the economy to that direction and indicate to the private sector, look here, private sector, the direction you are going is the wrong direction. It is inefficient. It is causing problems. So this is the right direction to go. You indicate the right path to go. That is done by the government using market intervention, using rules and regulations, using taxes and subsidies. So things like that, the government can indicate the right path to the market system. So indicative planning is something or a way of using the planning mechanism, but not in a central way, not as the main method of resource allocation, but the government as a guidance to the private sector in a market economy and a mixed economic system, right? We can talk more on that. If you want me to explain more, Putta, definitely we can do that. After the class, if you talk to me, I will explain more. And also page 47, Putta, there is a note explaining this. I have given examples of countries also. Simple understanding. Remember, indicative planning is one method of using the what mechanism? Planning mechanism, right? Again, I was very genuine when I said, if you want me to explain more, if you want to talk more about this, just hang around after I finish the class, Putta, we can talk further and I can explain. Also, read the note, plus go through the recorded version if you want to. There also, I will be explaining this part. Are we okay? Right. Excellent. Good. Right. But in your syllabus, mainly they will test you on central planning, command economy. Right. Okay. That's all. That also has to be said. Right. Then, since we are about to talk about how a command and a market economy will solve basic economic problems, it's good to be very clear on the differences between a command economy and a market economy. No, don't worry. I'm not going to go through this point by point because we have done that and we have done it well. For now, I just want to remind you that you guys know the main side-by-side differences between a command economy and a market economy. Okay, right. Basic economic problems. What are the basic economic problems? We remember we have three basic economic problems. Problems can only be solved when we make decisions. Problems can only be solved when we make what? Decisions. Right. So, first problem, what to produce in what quantity? What to produce in what quantities? What kind of a problem? It's an allocation problem. Just see the way I'm asking the questions. First problem is what to produce in what quantity. What kind of a problem is that? It's an allocation problem. It's about how to allocate our scarce resources, right? We have scarce resources, right? We have land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, right? We have unlimited wants, human wants. So there are many wants, right, that we have to satisfy. To satisfy each of these W, right? To satisfy each of these wants, we have to produce certain amount of different goods and services, right? Different types of goods and services we have to produce, right? So we have to decide, Putta, out of all the wants we have, many wants we have limited resources. On what wants are we going to allocate our resources, right? On what wants are we going to allocate our resources, and on what wants we are not going to allocate resources. We have to make a choice. That is called the trade-off. Are we clear? I know this diagram looks pointless, but you guys get the idea, right? What an allocation problem. Problems can only be solved if you make decisions. Decisions can only be made if we have information. Remember? Right. So what is the decision required? We have to make a production decision. Remember? Production decision. So you need to remember these three things. You have to remember the what to produce part. You have to remember the allocation problem. You have to remember the production decision. You have to be very clear on those three things. Is that clear? Right. How they connect. Then, second problem is how to produce. What kind of a problem is how to produce? How to produce is a production problem. The decision is choice of techniques decision. Choice of techniques decision. Okay. You have to decide the production technique. Then you can solve the problem of how to produce. Third problem is whom to produce. What kind of a problem? Distribution problem. What kind of a decision? Distribution decision. These are the three problems. Let's talk about them in a bit more detail, not a lot, but a bit more detail, and then we can look at how to solve them as well. Okay, we need to understand the problems, otherwise you can't do anything. We used, I believe, a very, very effective analogy example to explain these three problems. Anyone remembers what was the analogy? I used a certain food item for it. I've already got responses. There we go. Yes, our very effective, very famous cake analogy. Yes, right. How do we say it, Buddha? Every country has to make a cake. Every society, every country has to make a cake. Got it? Which means every country has to produce goods and services. That is the only way to satisfy our unlimited wants and through that our needs. Okay. But every country to produce this cake, they only have a limited amount of wheat flour, limited amount of eggs, limited amount of butter, or I think butter, and a limited amount of sugar. Yeah. So it's like the land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. There's a limited amount of ingredients we have. We don't have endless ingredients. So with the limited resources or the ingredients we have to decide what kind of a cake to make. Why? Because there are many kinds of cakes we can make. We don't have enough ingredients to make all the types of cake. So first problem is what to produce. What kind of a cake to make? What kind of a cake to make? All societies have to face this trade-off when they allocate resources and solve three basic economic problems, which we mentioned earlier. So first problem, what to produce? What kind of a cake to make? Are we going to make a basic butter cake? Are we going to make a very rich cake with all the fruits and nuts and vegetables and no vegetables, right? Everything. Are we going to make a cake individually for each person? Cupcake kind of a story. So we have to decide with that. Every country has to decide what kind of goods and services are they going to produce. What to produce? Because we don't have enough resources to produce all the goods and services. We can't produce all of these types of cakes. We don't have the resources. Trade-off. Choice has to be made. Get it? Something has to be given up. Right. What to produce? Are we okay? Very simple. Don't overthink. Then second problem, how to produce. When we decide what kind of a cake to make, after we decide what kind of a cake to make, we have to decide how are we going to make that cake, right? How? Are we going to use, we'll say, more capital, machinery and equipments and make the cake? Are we going to use more manual effort, more labor and make the cake? We need both. You can't make anything with only capital or only labor. But what do we use more? Manual effort or machinery equipment? Capital intensive or labor intensive? Are we going to mix everything by hand or are we going to use a machine? How to make the cake? How to produce goods and services? Where to make a decision, right? Then thirdly, whom to produce? Meaning, how are we now? We have made the cake, we'll say. Once we make the cake, we have to also decide how are we going to distribute the cake? Are we going to distribute it equally amongst everyone? That is one method. Maybe that has to be done by a certain party, right? Like your mothers at home, when they divide food and things like that at home, they come and say, wait. I'll divide. I'll be fair. And you trust your mother to be fair and you divide it equally and everyone gets the same piece, size of the piece. Or you can think, no. Anyone who has let people cut a piece and take. So people with big knife will cut a big piece. People with a medium knife will get a medium piece. People with a small knife will get a small piece. People with no knife will get no piece. No piece in terms of piece and piece. Get it? Because they don't get a piece of cake, meaning they don't get the goods and services, and they don't have peace of mind because they don't have a piece of cake. Get it? Right. So hopefully you guys get the point. Overall, Buddha, this is a really good and easy way to remember how to do this. Now, this is more of like, I would say, this is more like a command system where the government, like your mother, the government will come and wait, don't put your hands and legs and into this, right? Someone tries to take their knife and cut a piece. Government goes, wait, we'll divide. We'll be fair. Social equity, right? Come on. Or you can have more like a, market economic system, depending on the purchasing power. The knife, by the way, is purchasing power, depending on the knife. Now, in a command system, the government will divide. The government will make sure everyone has the same size of knife. Everyone has a reasonably equal purchasing power. So everyone gets the same piece. That way you can think. Market economy, people with higher purchasing power will get a bigger piece. People with less purchasing power will get a smaller piece. There can be people without any purchasing power. Remember that story, right? Liberal market economy, when you let go, you will fall to the ground. You will not get anything. That kind of an idea, right? Are we okay? The three basic economic problems, are we clear now? Yeah, right. Good. Few more things I want to touch on. Then once I do that, we are done with the basic economic problems. Okay, right. Let's go to the study material, Buddha, very quickly. Okay. Hopefully this doesn't make you dizzy or anything. Let me quickly go to the relevant area. Right. Okay, here we go. What to produce, production decision, allocation problem. I've explained everything here, right? Please make sure that you do a very basic, right? That you do a very basic, I'll say read. In a simple way, just read these things once. Okay, don't forget to do that. Right, very basic read is required. So in this explanation, I'm saying more or less, there are two things that we will understand when it comes to the first problem, what to produce. First thing is we have to make a decision about, right, what goods to produce, right, and in what quantities are we going to produce. So first thing we understand with the first problem, what to produce is that. Second thing is we have to face this problem. This becomes a basic economic problem since all societies face a problem of scarcity and choice, mainly a problem of scarcity. Okay, so go through. And then I want you guys to quickly do this now. We can really illustrate, really effectively, right? Very effectively, we can illustrate, we can show the problem of what to produce and these trade-offs we have to make using a wonderful model we have learned called the production possibilities frontier. Very easily we can understand the problem, right? I know you guys have got it with the cake analogy, but really if you want to show the problem of what to produce, you can go to the exam and draw different kinds of cakes and show this. So right, that is to remember, to understand and remember the problem. Now to illustrate the problem, we need to use the technique of the tool of a production possibility frontier. Right, what I want you guys to do is, you see in page 52, right? Hopefully all of you are with me. In page 52, there is some space. So I want to do 3 illustrations, right? So we'll divide this space. Right, zoom out a bit so that I can show you this, right? Okay. Now the space we have, maybe you guys can use it this way. Yeah, we'll go for something like this, right? Right. So have 2 panels here, 1, 2, right? And then maybe this doesn't have to be this much, also less space you can take, right? And have another panel at the bottom, right? So I'm going to give you 3 illustrations. First illustration is the PPF based illustration. The problem is what to produce. Then I will also use another diagram and help you understand, or we'll learn how to illustrate the problem of how to produce. And we'll also have a small illustration to explain the problem of whom to produce. Right? Let's use page 52 smartly as possible and get this done. Right? Okay. Now I'm going to go to the slides with that to give you the PPF illustration on this. Share it with you guys. Right. Okay. Don't make it too complicated. Just quickly draw this. And I think you guys can find a way to write these points as well. Just I'm telling you, this is also part of the downloadable PDF, but I prefer it if you can draw the diagram, because that way you will remember this a bit more. Okay, right. Page 52. I've given that here also. Right. Can you get this done soon, Buddha? And please let me know once you're done. Okay, right. Right. I think most of you guys are done. Yeah, right. Now, but what is the second base economic problem? How to produce. Okay. Now, how to produce is, I'll go to the note in a bit. How to produce is essentially, the basic idea is, what is the production technique or method we should use to produce whatever the goods and services we have chosen to allocate resources on. In other words, we have solved the problem of what to produce. Now we know what we're going to produce. Then we are asking, how are we going to produce? What is the technique? What is the method? For any country, whether it's a capitalist based country or a socialist based country, whether it's a command economy or a market economy, the choices between, right, obviously then for mixed economy also, choices between something called labor intensive production method and capital intensive production method, which means, are we going to use more labor or are we going to use more capital? Now, please understand, it is a production decision or a choice of techniques, choice of techniques decision that has to be made in the beginning. You can't think, okay, as it goes, let's use a bit of capital, bit of labor. Like some people cook food, you can't put a bit of that, bit of this, taste it a bit and put more, put that, and you can't do that with production. You have to plan your production method. You have to make a decision about your production method. So fundamentally, let me use that word, fundamentally, you have to decide, are you going to produce with a capital technology based production approach or more manual effort based labor driven production method. Once that decision is made, you can plan your production process. It's like when you guys are doing A-levels, you have to decide, rather than selecting subjects first, you have to decide which stream are you going to follow. Physical science, bioscience. Why did I start with those? I'm extremely sorry. Commerce, arts, then physical science, bioscience, maybe technology stream. You have to make a decision. Once you have that decision made, then you can go and pick your subject combinations and get this done. Likewise, okay? So now, two things very quickly. First thing is, there is this misunderstanding, there is this incorrect understanding that capitalist countries, market economies always choose capital intensive, and socialist countries, command economies always go with labor intensive. No, there's nothing like that. Capitalist countries can use, there are situations where capitalist countries, America, using labor intensive. It depends on the industry, depends on what is the most efficient production method. They will decide that. In China, there are highly automated, highly technology-based factories where very few people are working. China being a communist country or command economy. So, but there's nothing saying that capitalist countries always use capital intensive, socialist countries always use labor intensive. No, that's the first incorrect thing to say. Second thing is, when a country decides whether it's going to go for labor intensive, capital intensive, they need to look at a few things. They need to look at their cultural background. They need to look at their economic, political, social factors. They have to consider and make that decision. Okay, right. So economic factor there is, I'll quickly say this, economic factor there is, while we go to the study material, the economic factor that a country has to focus on is basically they have to compare the cost and see how much is labor, meaning interest, wage rates, how much is the cost on labor, how much is the cost on capital. What is the quality of labor? What is the quality of capital? Then they can easily make that decision. That's why we say economic factor has to be considered. Right. In your study material, can you highlight this part? Right. These are the important criteria or the points to consider. Right. Okay. Social, economic, political, and cultural, page 53. So those things have to be, yes. Question, Buddha? No? Right. Those things have to be considered, and then you can make the decision. Because we started at 4:15, I'm going to do a few minutes beyond 6 o'clock. Hopefully you guys are okay, right? Right. No, we'll complete the 3 basic economic problems and stop with that. Okay? Right. Please give me that few extra minutes. Right? Don't be angry with me. It's not me, it's the CEB. Okay, the Ceylon Electricity Board. Don't be angry with me, please. Right. Okay. Done. Good. Then there's a small diagram to explain these combinations also, labor intensive, capital intensive. So let's draw that diagram also in page 52. Okay. Right. Can you guys quickly get this done and let me know once you're done? Okay, very quickly do it. We have one more problem to talk about, and I have 2 messages to tell you also. So let's do it quickly. Okay, done? Right. So if we select point A, we are going for a labor intensive production method where we are using more labor, less capital. If we select point B, we are going for a capital intensive production method, more capital, less labor. The curve will not touch the vertical or the horizontal axis because we can't produce only using labor, we can't produce only using capital. Got it? And also, Buddha, we will not, it's not practical to have something exactly in the middle because as I explained earlier, where I said that word fundamentally, a decision has to be made. Are you going for labor intensive or are you going for capital intensive? Practically, you can't have a situation where exact equal of labor capital doesn't work. You have to make a decision. Are we, as a production method, are we going towards more capital or manual effort, meaning labor? Okay, right. If you guys have any questions there, you can ask, but that's the basic idea. Right. Then the problem of home to produce. Now I have explained the problem well in the note. Okay, home to produce, everything you need to know is here. I'll give you the basic idea very quickly, then we should be okay. Right, that is, first and foremost, whether it's a market economy or whether it's a command economic system, market or command economic system, either of these, the problem of whom to produce depends on, we have to be clear on this, depends on purchasing power, right? Purchasing power. Purchasing power depends on two things. Purchasing power is your ability to buy goods and services. Okay, it's all about purchasing power. Purchasing power is your ability to buy goods and services. Get it? Ability to buy goods and services. Purchasing power, it's basically about two things, right? Purchasing power is about two things. What are the two things that decide purchasing power? Number one, are you guys with me? Right. Number one, income. Income decides our purchasing power. So we call this income distribution. How is the income distributed? That tells us about the purchasing power, the first factor. Other is price level, right? Price level. These are the two things that decide purchasing power, income and price level. Now, in a market economy, okay, in a market economy, now income is decided based on, right, two things. One, the quantity and quality of factors you have. Get it? If you take labor, what is the quality of labor you have and what is the amount of hours you can provide labor, that will decide your income you can earn. Get it? If it's land, what is the quality of land you have, how much land you have, that will decide the rent you can earn. So income will depend on the quantity and quality, right? Quality of factors of production. Get it? That is what will decide the income. Okay. Price levels. Okay. Price levels will depend on the prices that are decided in the market. Now, there's a thing like this. Very quickly, we'll do this. This income, the quantity, quality of fact, all this is true, but this particular point here, I'll just write it on this side, right? The income in a market economy, it's decided in the based on demand and supply in factor markets. Factor markets. So in a market economy, the factor market demand supply will decide the price of land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, that is rent, wages, interest, all that is decided by basically the market demand and supply for land, labor, capital. And accordingly, the income will be decided in a market economy. In a command economy, this is decided by, right? The only factor of production that people have in a command economy is labor, right? And wages, right, are decided by the government. Only factor of production is labor, and the wages are decided by the government. Okay, so end of the day, income is one of the main factors deciding purchasing power. The difference is in a market economy that income depends on the demand and supply of factors in the factor market. That's how the wages, rent, interest is decided. In a command economy, the only factor of production people have is labor, because land and capital and entrepreneurship are government. Get it? So the wages is decided by the government. Wages is decided by the government. Then price levels, right? That also we can explain that way. Price levels, we can say in a market economy, price levels are decided based on demand and supply, right? Demand and supply in product markets. Product markets, right? Whereas in a command economy, the price levels are decided basically, especially for essential goods, right, by the government. Government will decide the price levels, right? In any format you guys want, you can write this, right? But in page 52, it will be good if you can make a note. That's how we talk about the problem of whom to produce. It's all about purchasing power. Purchasing power depends on two things: the income you get and the price levels. So depending on the income and the price levels, your purchasing power, the size of the knife depends on that. So if you have a higher purchasing power, you can get more goods and services. If you have a low purchasing power, you get less goods and services. In a market system, the income is decided based on demand and supply in the factor market. Prices are decided based on demand and supply in the product market. In a command system, it's all about the government deciding these things. Okay, right. While you guys complete this, let me quickly mention two things that I said I have to mention. For anyone watching the recorded version also, this will be important to know. First of all, anyone who has joined our classes, especially anyone who has joined our classes in the month of November last year, December, or in January of this year, I'm hoping to conduct a special series of fast-track seminars. A post has been posted, or we have a notification, something posted in your WhatsApp group. I'm sure you guys saw, right? I think it would have been posted today also again, right? All the details are there. I'm doing this seminar series free of charge, especially for students who have joined us after some time after we have started Unit 1. So this is a really good opportunity. And even for any of you guys who have been in the classes from the beginning, but if you want a bit of a recap or revision, this will be a good opportunity. It's done physically at Sigma Institute on Sundays, because Sundays is the only day I can find the time to do it. I'm planning to do a few sessions and very quickly but comprehensively cover the first unit, right? First 3 chapters of unit 1. So please make sure that you somehow participate. We have requested you to send us a WhatsApp message with your just saying seminar 2024 or something, and then your name and school. If you're a private candidate, just say private candidate with a name and school. Just say seminar 2024 and send us drop us a WhatsApp message, so that then I think you will get a reply acknowledging your message, and your admission number for the seminar will be given, so that we can print a seminar material for you and do this in a very organized way. Okay, so please try to make use of this opportunity. And any of your friends, this is very important, Buddha, any of your schoolmates, other subject classmates, any of your friends who are planning to join, they need to make sure that they are also plan to join our classes, Econ-Hub classes, virtually or physically. Please give this message to them. On your WhatsApp group, we have the post, Buddha. Please be kind enough to share it amongst your friends. Send it to the people that you know who are doing A-levels, English medium, who are taking economics as a subject. Then they also can participate for this free seminar. They also need to send that WhatsApp message. Okay, right? Participate for this free seminar, and please encourage them to send that WhatsApp message. Then we can print a material for them, get them into the seminar, and bring everyone up to speed. And when we start unit 2 in the month of February, all of us will be really in the same place and ready. Anyway, unit 2 is a separate unit. It has nothing to do with unit 1. You can learn it from the very beginning. Unit 2 is the largest unit of your syllabus, and it is the unit that will make or break economics. If you want an A grade pass for economics, you need to be good with demand, supply, equilibrium, elasticity. That is unit 2. So make sure by February you are 100% geared up and ready to start unit 2. We will do a really good job with unit 2. We normally do, right? And any of your friends who are on the fence thinking about the class, please make sure they are definitely there from the very beginning of unit 2, right? Because once they miss unit 2 also, and halfway if they try to join, it will be more confusing than now. Okay, so those are the messages, Buddha. I'll see you guys in the next session. So with that, let me conclude the session for today. If you have any questions, you can ask. I will stop the recorded version now.